Yeah, Talal here, down in the art district here in St. Louis. Uh, got the boy Fathom 9 here, national conscious rapper, poet, all around revolutionary. About to get his perspective, on the art world, his work, and just what's going on in the scene. Fathom, what's going on, man?
Peace, peace, peace. What's going on, man?
I'm chilling out, man. Introduce yourself to the world, bro.
I'm Fathom 9. I'm hailing from Memphis, Tennessee, the Delta Quadrant, and I'm up here in St. Louis as an artist in residence with the Yayo Arts Collective here at Gaia Community Arts Gallery and Craft Shop. And, I just came up here to just vibe out and network and build, with like minds and alikes.
I
So,
see,
yeah.
I see, I see. Uh, Explain your art to the people, man.
Well, being that my art is a representation of my personal growth, I've kind of evolved from like naming it just one thing. Like, essentially the foreground of it is hip hop. And I mean, like, hip hop in its truest form so far as I, translate that. You know what I'm saying? It's, since, that's soul, lyricism, what I'm saying, beats. I'm a son of the boom bap, I'm a son of the funk, jazz. I'm a student of those art forms. So I try to incorporate that in my music. Um, I do a lot of instrumental music as well as MCing, lyricism. A lot of times when I produce my instrumental albums, a lot of people are kind of thrown off because they peg me as simply an MC who does beats, and that kind of devalues, the entire process of creation. So my music, I like to think, tells its own story. And if I add, if it moves me in my spirit to add vocals or verses to it, then I'm no more than another integral instrument in the entire process. So I'm not merely like a rapper, you know, rapping over beats. I'm another instrument incorporated with all the other sounds and the entire soundscape and making, a complete composition.
I see, I
That's how I
see.
see it. Yeah, so I wouldn't, essentially you could say I'm hip hop. Um, but if what you listen to on the radio is what you consider hip hop, then I'm very much so anti hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And I'm, in the vein of how jazz musicians who broke away from the traditionalist standpoint, like Miles, Coltrane, Max Roach, Monk, hell, Clifford Brown, all these cats that broke away from the traditionalist standpoint and were known as avant-garde. I've just gone ahead and instead of allowing the media to peg me into a category and said, well, okay, if the status quo says that what you hear, on the regular is hip hop, then I'm anti-hip hop.
I see, I see. So, Fathom, what's your primary source of inspiration, bro?
I have, man, I have various sources of inspiration. A lot of times when writing, it's like today, for instance, if I wasn't like working at the art gallery, I'd probably be out walking, just kind of vibing in the nature and, into my collective self and reflecting and translating all of those thoughts and experiences into the flow or into the music. Um, Listening to classical, listening to jazz, like I said, Coltrane is one of my all-time favorites. Um, you know, um, Memphis jazz musicians that are like vaguely known, Book a Little, cats like that, vibing to their music and their method. And and I'm a student of many cats that came before me. So far as the hip hop tip, Pharoah Monch, Busta Rhymes, the entire Native Tongues collective, um, Far Side, NWA, just so many cats that came before, I took something from them that inspired me to do what I do. I remember my brother-in-law telling me when I was like 15, it was a Ghetto Boys joint, and I learned the lyrics, and this is before I got into even, my own cadences and even thinking about rhyming. But you learn the lyrics to your favorite song, and then you spitting it, and it's like you spitting it with the same vigor or, a hyper vigor and tenacity than the artist that produced it, and it's like, man, hey, you making that sound like it's your joint. And I always remember that. So every time I do my own stuff, when I started getting into writing my own rhymes and eventually making my own beats, I was like, that's kind of that passion that I have to convey. And personally, I've developed, I coined this in a rhyme back in like 2000. It's called the science of microaggression. And the science of microaggression is similar to the idea of the blue note, where you can't really put it into words, you can't really chart it. When there's the blue note, that's something you have to play from the soul standpoint. You have to convey that it'll never be played the same way twice. And so the blue note was always, it was always a pickle to the scholars and everybody of the day who was trying to like find out how these jazz musicians in these jam sessions, hitting these certain notes and certain cadences in the tonal phrases that couldn't be charted, as a clef or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't write it in musical notation. It just had to be played. It was freestyle. It was innovation. The science of microaggression for me is very similar to that, in that when I'm on stage, the experience, and this is not in my own words, the experience is very shamanistic. It's me becoming the music and not just spitting. You know what I'm saying? It's a full 360-degree experience where the audience and everything, the environment becomes the whole canvas. You know what I'm saying? And we're painting a picture together, as versus me just being on stage, standing apart. Doing this thing that you witness, and then you go home and be like, oh yeah, we saw this cat. Nah, I want you to get involved. The true essence of emceeing. Where you encompass everything and everyone that's sharing that moment with you into the experience, and it makes it so much hyper. So yeah, so I represent, for me, as myself personally as an artist, I represent the science of microaggression. And you'd have to, I can't even explain it. That's kind of how wicked it is. That's how serious it is. You'd have to see it. You know what I'm saying? I can't even put it into words.
Right.
So
almost like that controlled chaos we studied.
Yes. It's like controlled entropy, man. But at the same time, it ain't control. It's like, there might be a point that you reach where, you are not yourself, and you are everything. You know what I'm saying? You are everything and nothing at the same time. It's
right.
Man, it's an awesome experience,
Uncontrolled chaos, but understood.
Understood, right.
Okay, so if you can, break down the significance of music along the Mississippi, Memphis, St. Louis, Chicago.
Let me speak on Memphis first. Memphis is, of course, known popularly for the blues. Mainstream music-wise.
All right, Fathom. So if you could, break down the significance of music along the Mississippi. Memphis, St. Louis, Chicago.
That kind of follows the great migration of the from the south to the Midwest, to the north, to the East Coast. So popularly, Memphis music is known for blues. That's from the Delta. And of course, you go up the Mississippi River. You know what I'm saying? It's the music was definitely about the time periods. Coming out of going into Jim Crow. It's got that date stamp of Jim Crow and that time period on it. Memphis in particular is known for the blues, but there was also Stax which was kind of a counter to Motown. You know, when you get into the Motown sound of the 50s, 60s, 70s. And there were other subsidiaries of like Stax. High Volt, things like that. And of course, Sun Studios where Elvis came from, but we ain't really on that. Chicago, a lot of people transplanted from the South, from the Mid-South, up to the Midwest, so, they hit Chicago. Chicago had, cats from New Orleans, too, come up there, and that's where, jazz sound, hit big or whatever. For me personally, like, the Chicago, I'm tied into the Chicago hip-hop sound, the underground. It's, it kind of has similarities in some ways on some sides to Memphis, to that southern sound. It's very much like a progressive type of sound, but it's very reminiscent of what's popularly known as that southern sound. It's very geographically stamped. Like certain locations are. I'm not trying to say this. They represent the geography. You know what I'm saying? In the South, everything's spread out, bass heavy. Grooves, things like that. The further north you go, east you go, things are a bit more compacted, close together. Music, kind of represents a more nervous, intense energy. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm still kind of getting into the St. Louis sound, but I've been doing a lot of, personal research on like musicians that came out of here, and their ties to Memphis, and their ties to the global spectrum of music.
I see. Do you have any advice for aspiring artists and young musicians?
I would say, I would definitely say nurture your imagination, because most of this comes from imagination. You can have all the equipment in the world, you can have all the resources in the world, but if you can't translate, that imagination into, an actual representation of who you are, not who you think people want you to be, but who you are, then it's not gonna be received well. Definitely just be yourself and learn and study your craft, study the history of your craft, and keep building on and have a desire to innovate. You can emulate those who inspire you, but you don't have to become carbon copies of them either. And and make sure that you are in this for more than just a buck, because it's very similar to being in the NBA. The higher you go up in school, the less chances you have on playing on certain teams. You're in high school, less chances you have playing in college. In college, less chances you have going to pro. So make sure that you're doing this for self and not expecting, to be picked up because, you sound like 2 Chainz, or you sound like Nelly, or you sound like whatever. Make sure you develop your own sound. A lot of cats in the past, you watch documentaries. Watch plenty of documentaries, and study what these cats have been saying. They, when they were coming up, they didn't develop their own cadences and rhyme schemes and music styles at first because they were trying to sound like everybody else, but eventually they did. And, and you have to not be afraid to step out and represent who you are completely as an artist, as a budding artist or developing artist, you know what I'm saying? And watch the people that are in your ear telling you otherwise, follow your heart and listen to yourself and trust in your struggle. And that's, that's on the real, trust in your struggle.
I see.
Yeah.
And so, how can people enjoy your work, get a chance to, read your writings, listen to your music, and get in contact with you?
There, I have so many sites online, so many spots online. But I tell you what, you can go to my Facebook music page, which is www.facebook.com/Fathom FATHOM 92754. You hit me there, and you know you can link up to all my music, to my blogs. I do a lot of writing, poetry and prose, things like that. So you come to my Facebook page, you can check that out, or you can go to my Bandcamp if you want to go directly to my music, which is Fathom 9 FATHOM the number 9 dot bandcamp BANDCAMP.com. Fathom9.bandcamp.com. And it scores of music up there and other links to my blogs and things like that. So.
Right. Well, right on after coming out, you know what I'm saying? Give me opportunity to holler at you, man.
Appreciate it, man. My pleasure. I'm loving St. Louis, you know what I'm saying? It's really dope. I'm loving this Yayo Arts Collective, artists in residence opportunity that I have. I give thanks for that. And I'm looking to build with cats here like minds and here like, so
right.
Holla at me.
And you got a show coming up
yes.
this week, January the...
Yeah, we got one January 24th here at Gaia at the Art Gallery. We got a Words and Sounds intimate evening type show. I'll be doing a lot of my poetry there. And that's from 7 o'clock. That's from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. here at Gaia at
2700 Locust.
And on January 31st, that's the trifecta takeover. That's Delta Quadrant meets Art City. It's gonna be Soul Asar, Domino the Huxtable Kid, and myself, Fathom 9, doing the hip hop at Blank Space on Cherokee. I don't have the exact address for for the Blank Space spot, but it's on Cherokee, so it's easy to find.
Like most of the heads know where Blank Space is.
Right. So yeah, we're gonna be rocking it out on the 31st. I'm gonna have some special edition underground CDs for sale. My girl Delta Cool Breeze gonna have the scarves on lock for sale. So come out, support the underground movement, and check us out, man.
For sure. All right, man. Peace and love, Ak.
Peace and love, Ak.